Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? This is my review of The BOBIVERSE by Dennis E. Taylor. To date, there are 5 books in this series. However, I do believe it was originally conceived as a trilogy, and I finished the trilogy. They all came out in pretty close succession in the mid 2010s. I finished the trilogy in 2017, and then Taylor wrote a couple of sequels later. I'm going to say right out the gate that I chose not to read the sequels simply because the trilogy ended so well and so tastefully. It had a very coherent and cohesive through line. And in the time between books 4 and 5 came out and book 3 came out, he wrote a couple of other standalone sci-fis that I thought were just fine. Like they were good and adequate, but they didn't knock my socks off the way the BOBIVERSE did. And I was hesitant to read those and read 4 and 5 and potentially sour my taste on the original. So, if you've read books 4 and 5, 4 is called, I believe, Heaven's River, and 5 is Not Till We Are Lost. Give me your honest take on it in the comments, but try to avoid spoilers because that's what I'm going to do here. The first book in the series has a great title. It pulls you right in. It says, "We are Legion, we are Bob." Bob is the main character, and I believe that it starts in 2014. And he and his friends started a tech venture, a business venture together. It went big. They cashed out, and he immediately went and signed up for this experimental cryogenic brain print type experiment where when he dies, they're going to upload his brain print into some computerized thing and he'll be able to keep living in some form. His friends ask him why he does this, and his worldview is key to all of this. He is a secular humanist, an atheist, an agnostic. I understand that there are differences between the different flavors of that. The point is that he's not spiritual. He doesn't believe in an afterlife, and to really live and practice according to his worldview, he decides to try this thing out. Once I die, that's it. I want to try this thing out. Then after he's done celebrating with his friends, he immediately walks outside and gets hit by a car, and he wakes up, and several decades have passed, and the United States is now under the control of an absolute theocracy. You can tell there's a bit of an axe to grind with Christianity, or with faith especially, but it's these like weird, super religious Bible thumper types from like Oregon somehow that have taken over the country, and they found his brain print along with a couple of other people that had used this service, and technically it's illegal for him to exist because he's trying to defy God. But there's a technical use, and they load his brain into a computer and put it onto a rocket and send it out into space because, hey, he can at least be useful to the theocracy in that way. I'm super paraphrasing here, but I want to emphasize this component of the series because this is something that I've talked about in other videos. The concept here is challenging to me as a Christian, as a believer and everything, but it's executed well. It's not like it's an affront to me being a Christian and a believer, but it's a perspective from a protagonist that I definitely don't like click and sync with. I myself am not a secularist or whatever. I don't have this negative view of believing people in government. Obviously, that's the world that Taylor set up for his book. It works really, really well for its book, for his book. It's not beating the reader over the head. It's just a setting, and he explores it earnestly. So Bob is now in this space probe, and he gets to go out and start exploring the cosmos. And his space probe is able to fabricate certain things. He's got 3D printers and other stuff on board. He starts mining asteroids and getting minerals and raw materials and stuff like that out in the cosmos. He's able to generate solar power, and harvest solar power. He starts duplicating himself. Hey, copy and paste, and he creates variants and more variants. Time goes by, decades go by. There's even like centuries by the time the whole trilogy ends, and the timeline can get a little bit of confusing, and the perspectives can be as well. Because even though these characters have different names, there's Bob, there's Rob, there's Bill, there's Will, there's all this stuff, and their personalities are all like 98% similar. There's enough distinction and variation between them that you can understand, like, here's what this variant appreciates, here's what this variant is on about. He went this direction in the cosmos, this guy went that direction. They start finding planets, they start finding life on planets. Eventually they go back to Earth and they find out that Earth is dealing with a civilization ending calamity. They've got to save Earth. They've got to figure out how to get enough people off of the surface. It's a lot of hard sci-fi, or at least convincing sci-fi problem solving, and just like pure science fiction, space exploration, imagination for its own sake, but with a through line and with a direction. Bob does eventually encounter a hostile alien species, and he has to decide, not just tactically, militarily, strategically, how to engage with them, but also philosophically whether to engage with them and to what extent. And I don't want to say anything beyond that, because like just part of the joy of reading this series was discovering the many different ideas that the many different Bobs had to explore on the many different planets, some with alien species, some with that didn't have the species, but he brought human colonies to settle on them. Different variants of the Bobs interacted with different humans in different ways. This is a series that, man, it's like if you were to write 30 spin-off books, but condense them and also still make them coherent and tied to each other. It's a massive undertaking, and he does it without overstaying his welcome. I want to say each of these audiobooks is like 10 or 12 hours. They're not that long, and there's so much in them to enjoy and to appreciate. And I had such a great experience reading all three of them that it just goes back to why I didn't want to read a fourth and a fifth, oddly enough, because it ends so well. I wouldn't want to read something that then kind of dampens the impact of that ending. I believe Heaven's River, book 4, came out, I don't know, like 2018, 2019 or something. And I didn't get to it before I read some of the Red Rising sequels, for example. And I was so disappointed in how the Red Rising sequels really just wrenched the original Red Rising trilogy away from like what it was doing and what it was saying. And I just decided, it's like, you know what, I'm here for the Red Rising trilogy. I just want to enjoy that trilogy. I'm not going to worry about going on after that. And I think I'm going to do the same thing with the BOBIVERSE. But like I said, if you've read 4 and 5 and you can give me a good enough reason to go back and do those, then I'll consider it. But for now, this trilogy it's very underrated. It's about a character who's really not like me, but this is important. He's challenged in his perceptions and in his worldview. He doesn't do that thing where like he picks up a Bible and like, I believe, or anything like that. But as he explores the cosmos, he at least has to open his mind to the possibilities of certain things. And I believe that that's a value that sci-fi can provide for like anybody of any perception or persuasion. It is at its core about what is possible. The final note, content warning. Oddly enough, like there's not a whole bunch of language in these. In all 3 books, there is a total of 3 F-bombs. I believe the first one has 1, the second has 2, the third has 0. And other than that, there's not a whole lot of language, which is a weird way to use word economy. But at the same time, like when it hits, it's meant to really emphasizing, and it does. So, curious choice is what it is. This is a fantastic trilogy, and now that I go and kind of revisit mentally what I loved about it, I realize I'm due to reread it. So check out We Are Legion, We Are Bob. Book 2 is For We Are Many, and book 3 is All These Worlds. Let me know what you think. This is just really, really great and entertaining sci-fi. Till next time, drive safe. See you out there.